and welcome to the Series 11 panel discussion, and today we will be talking about Series 11, Episode 6, The Demons of Punjab. And today I have with me Zak.
Hello.
And Klaas.
Hi, I'm the gay one.
Right, so anyway, we are talking about The Demons of Punjab, as I just said, so I'm repeating myself superfluously. So let's talk about the Doctor. What do you think about the Doctor in this episode, Zak?
Okay, this episode, honestly, I still like Jodie, but this episode I don't think she really had any standout moments.
Yeah, she really had many standout moments this season in general, though. Like, they should have a couple.
I suppose the only one I really remember is the bit before the wedding day. I never did any of this when I was a man. That's probably the only bit I remember.
Yeah, the only real moments where Jodie Whittaker's Doctor's been standing...
Actually, wait. There is another moment I'd like. It's when she finds out that when she finds out about the aliens' intentions, and when she finds out that the guy's not going to die. That scene I thought was pretty good.
But I thought for a 50-minute story that had way too many characters in it, I thought the Doctor was handled quite well. Unlike in previous episodes,
she wasn't handled badly, but she's still suffering from not really having many defining moments or many really good episodes with proper villains to get your teeth into. The only episode I feel she's really stood out so far was Rosa, and that had some really good writing, which is probably not to do with it.
But the episode Rosa in itself was literally 7 characters or something.
That's
6
true.
characters.
Yeah, but doesn't that just show the skill?
And even then in Rosa, there were only really a few developed characters and a few superfluous and a few extras, like Krasko, who was just there to be the bad guy.
But the thing about Rosa is that really shows skill in writing, managing to actually fit into this time frame of 50 minutes, because it's not enough for Doctor Who. For most Doctor Who stories, 50 minutes, 45 minutes, it's not enough. You need to have either 60-minute episodes or 2-parters. It's as simple as that. And I think this is another episode which kind of suffers from that, which we'll get into later when we kind of talk more about the characters and the plot. But, yeah.
Okay.
Jodie wasn't very interesting this episode. She did a fine job. She wasn't as bubbly and David Tennant this week.
I'm glad that she's starting to tone it down ever so. She seems to have toned it down every episode.
They filmed.
In fact, I get more Matt Smith vibe from her, to be honest.
No, she's not as dreadful as Smith.
I mean, in terms of the childlike quirks and all that.
Well, so far I've been looking, really wanting to see a Doctor actually have some properly defining moments, something, that really is wow, yeah, that's Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, and we just haven't really got that yet. Mainly because most of the stories have been pretty underwhelming. I think she really needs a properly good... Rosa was a good start, but it's not it's not that kind of story that can really be a defining moment for a Doctor. We need an episode like Dalek, which was the defining episode for Christopher Eccleston. We need something like that. Because so far, Jodie's Doctor, while not being bad, I don't know.
But,
it just doesn't really strike me as too much special so far.
I mean, usually a defining Doctor moment is something either really dark or just something so funny that you just can't forget it.
Absolutely, like Hartnell
sword fighting.
In fact, I'd say Hartnell's initial defining moment was the final bits of Edge of Destruction. Troughton was the start of it because of how different in tone his Doctor was. Pertwee was just generally his action scenes.
I'd say the Silurians is kind of where he started to get where he was defined more or less. Because the end of days he wasn't really a presence. Where is in the Silurians you really get to see part of his moral character and his desperation to try and save the Silurians.
Tom Baker had a few defining moments because his era kind of went through a couple of different phases.
The Ark in Space is definitely the episode was wow, yeah, I'm getting this Doctor. But we haven't had that kind of episode for Jodie yet. We haven't had an episode where we're just wow, I get this Doctor yet.
We just need a 2-parter where the threat is so imminent and big that
they need time to develop a proper plot.
I'd
with
say,
characters
here's
who
something.
are developed so that we properly care about them. We need
a story also.
so you can develop all of that and do it well and make it well. And I mean, it's just so
And
frustrating why they won't do
Jodie
that.
also needs a story where her doctor is knocked down a peg. And by that I mean give her a story where it feels like the stakes rule on her, where it feels like where it feels like the doctor is out of her depth, where she finally feels like a character rather than what we've had so far.
And like to go back to the Dalek, the reason why that was quite good for Chris Eccleston's Doctor is it was an episode where he was knocked down a peg, like where Rose was like, "Look at you, Doctor, you're doing something wrong."
And we saw that from the very first encounter with the Dalek, because we did have a few episodes prior where it was violence isn't the answer, and what's the first thing that he tries to do to the Dalek? He tries to kill it.
Yeah, and then that scene where he just says to the Dalek, "Rid the universe of your filth, why don't you just die?" And the Dalek says, "You will make a good Dalek." Oh, sorry, you would make a good Dalek. We need a moment somewhat like that. It doesn't have to be the same, it doesn't even have to be negative like that one.
No.
But we just need something to probably get our teeth into with this Doctor. And considering we're 6 episodes in, I think we're now justified.
That also reminds me of it.
But let's hope that we're going to get it.
Reminds me of another line as well in The Girl Who Waited when Rory says to the Doctor, "This isn't fair. You're turning me into you." That's because a story that shows that the Doctor isn't this all nice being.
Yeah, that's what makes good episodes and like good development for the Doctor, showing that he or she isn't always right, and he or she does lose, and he or she does do things wrong, because a character that isn't flawed isn't interesting.
You know, I really hope that when the Daleks do show up eventually, probably
because they will eventually show up.
I really want them to just win.
Yeah, I agree
Doctor
with that.
Just completely lose, and the only thing, I mean,
well,
not necessarily.
Maybe have it like a Resurrection of the Daleks kind of thing, where it's a Pyrrhic victory, even though the Doctor manages to defeat the Daleks. It's at the cost of so many lives, to the point where one of the companions is just like, "I can't do this anymore." Something like that would be great.
Or maybe go full Dalek's master plan where everyone fucking dies.
Well, that was Resurrection as well.
I mean, what would be good, and this is a story I kind of imagined over the past couple of weeks that would be really good for Jodie's Doctor, is they're all like stranded on some out on some other planets on some alien station, space station or something, and then the Daleks or something show up, and all the companions are split up. The Doctor doesn't know where everyone is, and she's just trying to save everyone without having any idea how to do so.
That sounds good. That sounds like it could be a good story.
Mm-hmm.
There's something where she really needs to just push to her full limits. That's what we need.
Yeah, that's definitely what we need. Is I don't feel this Doctor's really been pushed that much.
No.
Yeah, like Tennant in Waters of Mars, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, for time reasons, we're going to have to move on now.
Yeah,
so
we're going on a bit of a tangent now. So
yeah, we're going to talk about the companions. So do you want to start, Klaas?
I mean, the only companion that really mattered this episode was Yaz. And I actually really enjoyed her this week.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, she showed some personality 6 weeks into the show. That's...
I still don't feel like I know who Yaz is, and I think
I still don't know who she is.
Yeah, the mistake these Yaz episodes are making is they're trying to focus on Yaz by focusing on her family, but what happens as a result is all her family members are developed better than her. Because I still don't know who the hell Yaz is. She's still really not developed. All her family members are. I know her grandma and her mother really well, but I'm still not getting this character, and it's really bad 6 weeks in. There's still be thinking this. There's been plenty of time to do stuff with it. Thank God that even though Ryan and Graham didn't get much to do here, they were still great. They're becoming a bit of a good double act. But yeah, needs improvement.
Ryan and Graham have been a great double act throughout this series, and I will say this has been Yaz's best episode so far. But then, honestly, after it, then I was just starting to think, why? And to be perfectly honest, it's not her. It's just the people around. It's just the people around her, and the setting that revolves around her. Because Yaz herself, still still doesn't really have any defining character beyond being the cat being.
I mean, the reason that Graham and Ryan work so well is because they have each other to bounce off of.
And that's and on that note as well, even if Graham wasn't the big focus of this episode, I really liked his little scene with his little parental scene with Yaz.
Oh yeah,
That was good.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just like they really need to work out what they want to do with Yaz.
What they should have done.
She feels like a little anendum. She hasn't got the focus that they've been giving.
She's the bloody Keres of the group.
But what they should have done in the beginning is got Ryan out of it completely, and then have Graham and Yaz have the relationship that Graham and Ryan have, and still have Yaz have like a whole family dynamic that she still has now, and just have those two companions.
Yeah.
That would have been more interesting, and we could have actually seen different sides to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's basically, there's not too much new to say here, other than it's yet another episode focused on Yaz, which just develops Yaz's family and not her, which is annoying. But we're just retreading ground here, so I think unless you have anything else to say, we should move on.
No, that's pretty much all I have for Yaz.
I mean, at least her entire personality isn't based around the fact that she's gay.
Although I thought Bill had a personality.
She did. Bill had a personality, but repeating that same scene over and over again.
Yeah, no. The fact that scene was repeated at least 4 times in series 10, like, and it's always the same thing. Like somebody thinks, I fancy this woman. No, I am gay. You cannot fancy me. I do not want to be with you. Is that okay? And that scene was done like 4 times in series 10.
First few times was like okay, but then the time where I thought okay really was before Capal was before 12 went off to battle, and I was like, okay, Bill, we get it.
Yeah.
I mean, no, remember...
Anyway,
moving on.
Okay.
Right, so side characters are the next one. So who wants to talk about how much more developed Yaz's family members are than Yaz herself? Why don't you start, Zach?
Okay, Yaz's grandma. I liked her character even from the first scene. It was a night, and the first scene and the last scene were really nice moments, and it was pretty nice seeing young Yaz's grandma. I forget her name. It was pretty nice seeing her develop, and it was nice seeing how portraying this event, the partition of it, portraying the partition of India in a more down to earth contained way by having it just be one family, a Muslim marrying a Hindu.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It kind of had very much Hartnell pure historical vibes, where it was just portraying a very human conflict, and because of that, it was really nice and interesting, and it was really well done. Clearly, this writer is very strong at writing characters, because I mean, I enjoyed the very
same with them,
conflict,
and same with the fiance. I liked it.
And his brother as well.
It was.
Yeah.
I actually believe their characters, and they were very likable, nice people despite their flaws, and of course as we see in the climax. And I did feel a bit emotional when he sadly had to die.
I mean, what I liked about it was that it wasn't like the past Modern Who stories have done, where it's always the humans are right and the humans are such magical creatures. We need to protect all of them. And this time they were like, no, humans are shit.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
And the entire threat of the episode was built on internal prejudices.
Yeah, that's why some of these very historical oriented episodes are really good, because it's always good when there's a very human conflict, because it's something that there's so many more very relatable angles and deeper angles to explore in terms of philosophy and things like that. You can do all sorts with this kind of thing, and Doctor Who sometimes doesn't do it enough, and it did it here really well. It was excellent. I mean, we may as well just talk about the plot, as the plot is basically about these characters, and it's some wonderful stuff. It's some really good writing. I do have some complaints about the aliens, but we'll get onto them next.
I mean, so are we talking about the aliens or the plot now?
We're talking about kind of plot and side characters at the same time.
Okay, well, I liked the way that the story progressed. We just got right into it. We didn't have this whole like pre-scene of them just exploring or something.
Well, we did kind of have a pre-scene where it was like her talking to her grandmother, which I have to say that's actually one of
some story.
Yeah, but that's one other complaint I do have, is that opening scene in Yaz's house. Wow, that was written really ham-fistedly. Like, the lines were so forced, I burst out laughing
For
while
my
watching
favorite granddaughter.
Yeah, there's all sorts of lines of that. It was just exposition, and it made me laugh. It was so ham-fisted. It's like, considering how subtle and nice the character writing is, the rest of the story. Zach, let me speak. It's so jarring to have it at the beginning of the story be like this, like when it's just so ham-fisted, when the rest of it's so subtle and good. Anyway, yeah, go on, Zach.
Yeah, on that note as well, when it comes to awkward dialogue in the actual wedding scene itself, while it was nice, I felt some of the dialogue felt a little bit much like this is our moment in time. That it felt a bit like, yeah, I don't believe these are people saying that these are people speaking from their heart. I believe this is a person reading something that someone wrote from a script.
Yeah, but can I just say the acting this week was not very good. I mean, the main cast...
It didn't blow my socks off, but I didn't exactly think it was bad.
I mean, I felt like I was watching EastEnders or something. It was so cheesy.
I didn't really think much of the acting overall.
I didn't pick up on that. I
was just kind of lukewarm on it.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on what you're saying, Klaas. Maybe you're right, but I don't know. The acting never distracted me. It didn't ever make me think, wow, they're good actors, but, you know, I also didn't at any moment think, oh, this is pretty dire.
I mean, it was
other than the really ham-fisted force at the beginning, of course.
I have a question about the plot, actually. So in the end, did the grandmother remember Yaz going back in time or something? Did she remember her?
Well, I don't think she... I don't think
so.
But if not, then why is she like, oh, for my favorite granddaughter? Is she just that shit?
Come on, this is in Doctor Who all the time, though. Like, when they go back to see a past family member and the family member doesn't remember what they look like, this happens all the time, so I don't think this is really fair to just complain about this story.
I feel like if your newlywed husband was murdered by his brother and you were with a couple of people, I feel like you'd remember those people.
I don't think Yaz actually said who she
Rose
was.
Tyler on the day that her father died, her husband died.
There was a reason for that. I watched Father's Day quite recently, and everything just and no one remembered what happened after the timeline was reset. All they remembered was
except for the fact that Jackie did remember when Rose told her about it in the parting of the ways.
Rose, she remembered seeing Rose holding Pete's hand, but they didn't remember anything else.
All right.
Yeah, well then, I mean, she literally just said her name was Yaz. Wouldn't that eventually click some?
I don't think
some bells.
It might have done. I guess we'll never know.
Maybe she has early onset dementia. I don't know.
Yeah, we're looking too deep into this, I think.
All I have to say is that Doctor Who in both Big Finish and the TV series has done this kind of trope before, and you know, I'm kind of overthinking it. I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt that on the day your husband dies, you're probably not going to remember some person who was also there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At least not like in the future and think, were they my granddaughter? You know, I just don't think that's likely. I can kind of I can let it go, even though I see what you're saying, Klaas, but I don't think it's too major an issue. It's not worth getting hung up about.
I don't think Yaz ever said who she was. I don't think Yaz ever mentioned who she was. She did. I don't think she ever told her that she was her future granddaughter, so I don't think it really clicked.
No, she didn't tell her she was her future granddaughter, but you know.
I get what you mean. I just don't.
I understand what you mean.
I can understand that there is a strong chance that you wouldn't remember that kind of person that many years later. Because remember, 2018, that's like 70 years since the partition of India? You know, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And yeah, her grandmother must be like, what, 90 years old?
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah, you might not be able to remember faces that clearly that far back.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think we should move on to the aliens now, which is my main point of contention, really, with this story. But let's hear what you have to say first, if Klaas wants to start.
I mean, I didn't mind the aliens. I think it would have been better had it been just a pure historical. But I didn't really care either way.
Well, I basically agree with you. It's just the fact that there was no real point to them. They just wasted time in the episode, which could have been spent to developing like the characters and the world building a bit more, and maybe even Yaz.
When the aliens showed up, I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake! They don't need to be here." And
once I didn't think that instantly. It's just as the episode went along, it just reached a dead end with the aliens. Like, they're not bad, then they're just gone.
Yeah, exactly. Once they revealed what they were, once they revealed that they were just mourning the upcoming death, I was like, okay, so these guys didn't need to be there at all. We could have just had the death. We could have just had the death speak for itself.
Yeah, they were pointless, and had they not been there, they could have done way more with the story. It's already a really good story, but it could actually kind of finally break the levels of becoming a classic had it had more time to properly build the world and develop the characters. It just would have been so much better had it just been a pure historical, emphasising the fact that this is a very human conflict. It's got nothing to do with aliens or things like that, which it still was, because obviously the aliens weren't actually getting involved. But they were just pointless, and they shouldn't have been in.
I mean, the aliens were quite pointless, because I don't know if it happened to you two too, but I realised quite early on, okay, the brother is not a good guy.
Mm.
He's going to turn out to do something bad at the wedding, and then he shot his brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they shouldn't have been. It's just the fact that the script almost itself admits they're pointless by just halfway through the episode dumping them right until the end, because like, oh, well, they're good. And can I just say, I'm kind of sick of having aliens that, just turn out to be good. I mean, we have had very few serious, proper bad guys this series, if you've noticed.
Yeah.
And they've all been pretty poorly developed and weak as well.
And they mentioned early they mentioned the Stenza as if they're going to be this big arc, but the thing is, they introduced them with a joke. Oh, is your name Tim Shaw? That's pretty much.
The fact that the best villain this series has been Tim fucking Shaw shows there's a bit of a problem in this department.
Mm-hmm. The two best villains of this season aren't even that great: Tim Shaw and Space Race.
Donald Trump. Yeah, no, they've all been very poor. Yeah, you need to work on your villains, Series 11. I think that's one of the main problems. Episodes not being long enough, not developing plots enough, and villains being shit.
I mean, looking at the upcoming episodes, I don't think it's going to be solved.
No.
Possibly not, but we'll wait and see. Right, so anything else to say on the aliens before we move on?
Not really.
Nope.
Yeah, not much to say, is there? The production of this episode, which will be the last thing we talk about before our final thoughts. So what are your thoughts on the production?
I loved it. It looked really good. The directing this episode was especially what kept me invested in it.
Oh, it was absolutely sublime.
It was fantastic.
It looks gorgeous. I mean, yeah, Punjab is a beautiful area of the world. And I don't know where this was filmed, but they really kind of capture the very natural beauties of rural India.
It was also the things like the way that they shot, the death of the fiancé husband.
That was excellent, wasn't it?
That was really good,
yes.
because it was actually really dark for Doctor Who.
It was very impactful. You could feel the bullet when it shot. It was just like, oof.
Absolutely.
It hits you. It was really quality directing, which definitely complemented the script quite a lot. It probably helped colour our opinion a bit.
And even with the big scale of a massive army of a massive army coming after you, they still somehow kept that scene very intimate, just being two at the end of the day being two brothers having a disagreement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what's really good when it's just. It's just a little disagreement, and it's just really sad. Just again, it's emphasising the human conflict, which is what really makes this episode quite strong for me. And I want to see more of this, but without aliens and developed better, more or less.
And can we also talk about the music this week? Because it was really good.
Oh, it's always good.
Yes,
it's
really.
always good.
This is
I love
Sega
Nakanoa.
Sega Nakanoa is great. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. He is such a welcome change after the years of Mario Gold.
Oh, no doubt about it. I already love him.
And he was
times more than Mario Gold.
And he was on top form this episode with the
Did you hear the thing they did at the end credits?
Yes, that was really clever.
I didn't even realise it was the Doctor Who theme.
I didn't either.
It was such a clever twist in the Doctor Who theme.
Oh, it's a Doctor Who theme.
It was so clever.
Yeah, Tunak does the Doctor Who theme. It's excellent.
Really.
Yeah, as always, that's the one thing that this series has never really let up on. The production's always been great. Maybe it was a little bit of a ditch last week, but for the most part, really consistent
there wasn't much
quality
to do
production.
last week.
Yeah, I think, as I said last week, it was more of the script's fault of not really having anything interesting to show.
Because had the script been written better, it could have been very claustrophobic and very, you could have been on the edge of your seats.
They still owe Apple royalties for that ship.
Right, so we're going to move on to our final thoughts on this episode and give it a score out of 10. So would you like to go first, Zach?
Okay, I really like this episode. I really like this episode a lot. It was a really great historical, one of the best we've had in a long time. I'm happy that Yaz got a bit more focus, and we had some really nice character moments and how they portrayed this historical conflict in a really intimate way. Although it could have done without the aliens. I'll give this episode a 7.5 out of 10.
Klaas, would you like to go next?
I really liked this episode. I really liked the way they developed the characters. I thought the husband and brother conflict was really well done. Because it wasn't in the foreground very much, so it was more of a twist when it actually turned out to be the brother being bad, which I liked. And the direction of this episode was, I felt really good. This is the most into an episode I've been the entire series, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I can agree with a lot of what Klaas said. It was a really well-written episode, and it's one which really got characters, which I have to say Series 11's been doing quite well with characters, and this has to be one of the highlights. In particular, the subtle writing with the conflict between the brothers was excellent. It was a very human conflict between, like, Hindus, Muslims, different ideas, Pakistan, India. It was really good, and it not only educated the audience, like, entertained. It was really interesting, and I really did enjoy that aspect. There were some problems. Yaz still has yet to develop. The aliens were absolutely pointless, and the episode could have really developed its world building a bit more had the aliens not been in it, and then it could have been a classic. It could have been really well. It could have made that end scene, which is already so good, so much more impactful had the development been properly there, because you could have developed the characters ever so slightly more and developed the world a lot more, because even though we do get a little bit of a sense of what's going on in the wider area, had we had a bit more time to get that, I feel this could have been absolutely amazing. It could have been on par with a Hartnell pure historical, and I'm really looking forward to more of these, as Doctor Who seems to have really got how to do historicals again, and come on The Witchfinders. I'm looking forward to that. And I will give this episode an 8 out of 10.
They better not screw that up.
But first, Kablam.
Oh, bollocks, no!
And next week we have Kablam, which looks like a rejected seventh Doctor episode. But we'll see. Let's hope. It could be good. I literally have no idea what it's going to be like. But I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I hope it's like Paradise Towers.
It's nice to be looking forward to seeing what a Doctor Who episode is going to be like.
Will Jodie play the spoons?
Alright, so I'd like to thank you both for coming on.
No problem.
And I shall see you all back next week for Kablam.
Kablam.